The NFL trade deadline is right around the corner, and as expected, the rumor mill is absolutely buzzing, especially when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys, who are always at the center of speculation this time of year. Every fan is wondering the same thing. Will Jerry Jones and company finally make a move that pushes this team over the top, or will they stay conservative and trust the roster they've already built? If you're a Cowboys fan, you know the drill. Hope for fireworks, but prepare for silence. Now let's talk about what we do know. TYRANN mentioned on a national broadcast that she had a conversation with Jerry Jones at the NFL owners' meetings, and what he told her is, well, it's classic Jerry. According to her, he said the Cowboys are not going after a pass rusher, and he doesn't believe there's a player out there that makes sense contractually or is worth the draft capital. She walked away from that talk thinking Dallas might look around a little, but she doesn't see them making any big splash. And let's be honest, hearing Jerry say that kind of confirms what many already suspected. The Cowboys might not be serious players this year at the deadline. But here's where it gets interesting. If you're taking Jerry at face value, it suggests the team is either in full denial about needing help on the edge, or they're simply trying to hide their intentions until the last second. Because let's be real, the pass rush hasn't been as dominant lately, and not addressing that could be a mistake. There's always the possibility that Jerry is playing the media game, trying to control the narrative. Maybe the Cowboys did inquire about big names like Max Crosby, only to be quickly shot down, and now they're keeping things quiet to avoid public disappointment. And let's unpack what big splash even means, because that term is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Obviously, Dallas isn't going after Max Crosby or Trey Hendrickson. Those names are probably unattainable right now. But what about players like Jalen Phillips or Jermaine Johnson? They may not be superstars just yet, but they've got talent and upside. And they wouldn't cost 3 first-round picks either. So if those guys aren't considered big splashes, maybe the Cowboys are still in the hunt, just in a more calculated way. In fact, there's a theory floating around that Dallas has been doing its homework quietly. Maybe they asked about Max Crosby, got a firm no, and now they're playing it cool, leaking to the local media that they're not making calls, even if behind the scenes they actually are. That kind of strategic misdirection wouldn't be a shock, especially this time of year when front offices are desperate to avoid driving up the price by showing too much interest too early. 10 days is a long time in trade deadline terms. A lot can happen, and the Cowboys are known for making last-minute decisions. Now shifting to other teams, the New York Jets have suddenly become a team to watch as well. According to Jordan Schultz, several players could be on the move. Names like Bree Hall, Quincy Williams, Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald, Michael Carter, and Allen Lazard. A few of those names really jump out if you're looking at what Dallas needs defensively, especially Williams, Johnson, and McDonald. Each of them brings something a little different to the table, and all three could realistically upgrade the Cowboys' front seven. Let's start with Will McDonald. He hasn't quite replicated his college production yet, but the guy still flashes talent. Last season he had 10.5 sacks at Iowa State, and the Cowboys were reportedly interested in him during that draft cycle. If he'd been available when Dallas was on the clock, there's a good chance they would have taken him. So the interest is likely still there. Plus he's on a rookie contract with several years of team control left, which is exactly the kind of profile Dallas tends to love. Young, cheap, and full of potential. That said, there's a catch. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler has reported that the Jets might actually be more willing to move Jermaine Johnson than McDonald. Johnson, unlike McDonald, is a bit further along in his development, and though he's had a quieter season due to injury, he showed real flashes in 2023. His size also gives him versatility. He can play the run better than some of Dallas's current options, who tend to be more finesse than power. And yes, the injuries are a concern. He's missed time over the last 2 seasons. But if the price is right, Johnson feels like a guy worth gambling on. Then there's Quincy Williams, a name that probably doesn't get talked about enough. He's had an impressive resurgence in New York after a rough stint in Jacksonville. He's fast, aggressive, and brings real pop at the linebacker spot. Would the Jets actually move him? That's hard to say, especially considering how close he is with his brother Quinnen. Trading him could cause some chemistry issues in that locker room. But from Dallas's perspective, Quincy would be a big upgrade. He's physical, experienced, and brings an energy that this Cowboys defense could use down the stretch. Of course, all 3 of those Jets players are under contract beyond this season, and that complicates things. It means the Jets aren't under pressure to sell. According to reports, they are listening, but their asking prices are high. That usually means one of two things. Either they're not really trying to move these players, or they're trying to see if someone gets desperate and overpays. Either way, it puts the Cowboys in a tough spot. They've shown time and time again that they're not big fans of bidding wars. They prefer to wait for the right deal to fall into their lap, rather than chase it aggressively, and keep an eye on teams like the 49ers, who are also in the market for edge help. That's another wrinkle here. Robert Saleh coached a lot of these Jets defenders, and with San Francisco dealing with injuries, there's a natural connection. If the Niners go all in, that might drive the price up even further, making it even harder for Dallas to make a move. In a seller's market, being cautious doesn't usually pay off. Now, if the Cowboys are looking elsewhere for pass rushers, the Miami Dolphins could be an intriguing option. Word is that both Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips could be on the market or at least available under the right circumstances. The Dolphins are in a weird spot. Some insiders say the front office is in limbo, unsure about their job security, and that has them frozen when it comes to trades. But at the same time, they should be sellers. They're not quite where they hope to be, and if they can get value for one of their edge rushers, it would make sense to pull the trigger. Chubb has the contract security, but he'd be expensive both in terms of cap space and trade compensation. Jalen Phillips, on the other hand, might be the more interesting target. He's on a rookie deal and has flashed a ton of upside. His athleticism stands out, even if his sack numbers haven't exploded yet. If he's available for a mid-round pick, that's the kind of move that could pay off big. The challenge is that he's also a pending free agent, so you have to be sure you can either extend him or live with a short-term rental. One thing's for sure, the Cowboys aren't alone in this hunt. Teams like the Eagles, Chiefs, 49ers, Lions, and Colts have all been mentioned as looking for pass rush help. That means Dallas has competition, and in this kind of market, the aggressive teams usually win out. The Cowboys will have to decide if they want to play the waiting game again or finally push their chips in and get a deal done. And before we wrap this segment up, let's touch on a few names from the Titans that have been connected to the Cowboys by some reports, specifically linebacker Cody Barton and cornerback Roger McCreary. Barton's the kind of player who racks up tackles and brings solid effort, but the question is whether he moves the needle for a defense like Dallas. He's bounced around a bit and has been decent in coverage, but paying a fourth-round pick for him feels like a stretch. That's not cheap for a guy who's more of a low-end starter than a game-changer. McCreary, on the other hand, is a player I've liked for a while. He's scrappy, tough, and surprisingly physical for a nickel corner. He had 12 tackles for loss last season. Not something you see every day from a defensive back. That shows you he's not afraid to stick his nose in the run game. The downside? He's a bit undersized and has short arms, and that could be a deal-breaker for Dallas, who tend to be picky about measurables. Their preference for long, rangy corners might keep them from seriously pursuing him. While the Cowboys continue to evaluate their options and weigh whether or not to jump into the trade frenzy, the real challenge might not be the availability of players, but the willingness to pay the price. That's something fans have seen time and time again. Dallas gets linked to a big name. There's excitement, speculation flies, and then when it comes down to it, the front office either gets outbid or decides the value just isn't there. This trade deadline is shaping up to be no different. Whether it's edge rushers, linebackers, or even secondary help, there are names being floated. But the question is always the same. How far are the Cowboys willing to go? Let's go back to the idea of Dallas making a move for someone like Jalen Phillips. The Dolphins are in a unique position, and if Phillips is truly available, that's a situation the Cowboys need to monitor closely. He's not just a talented edge rusher. He's got that raw athleticism and physical traits that Dan Quinn would love to work with. He's a potential long-term building block if the front office can get ahead of the curve.